All right. This is going to be a tutorial on dealing with curtain walls. And if you're going to work in commercial architecture or construction, you're going to end up dealing with curtain walls because they're everywhere. And what they are is they could be interior, like inside a shopping mall or inside a building, or mostly they are exterior enclosures, and they are not part of the structural system of the building. Thus the name curtain wall, because they hang from the building, if you will, but they are a weatherproof enclosure. They're not structural. So I've given you two links in the web links part of Blackboard. Right here in your lessons tab, there's a folder for web links, and I'm giving you lots of information here, but I got you a couple of links down here on Conair curtain wall and storefront stuff. The first one comes from Conair UK, United Kingdom, because it was the only inclusive brochure that I could find from the company at this afternoon. And it's a pretty good brochure, and it has lots of examples of different types of curtain walls. Okay, and so just kind of scroll through it to look at some of the different examples that they have, the different combinations of materials in the buildings. It's got a lot of neat looking stuff in it. Okay, so that's why I gave it to you. In particular, this one here, which appears to have glass on glass at the corner, but there's actual mullion in there, so it's not glass just pushed up against glass. There's a mullion condition there. So there's lots of information here. Just kind of scroll through it. The other link is to a Conair US, and it's the catalog data for this one particular framing system, their Trifab 400, which is one of many systems that they have. And I just picked this one at random. Okay, I didn't go into it, but it gives you an idea of how this thing is assembled. So a mullion, this particular one is a two-part mullion. You've got the vertical style that has a notch here, a groove for the glazing, and then a cover piece that snaps to it, because these things are assembled kind of stick built, cut to size and stuff. And it snaps into there and gets screwed together, and then the glazing goes in, and you got your horizontal mullions that go in, and they're multi-piece also. So you get the framing put together, then you put the glass in, okay, and then you attach the cover to it. That's the glass stop, as they call it. So look through this one, and you can see lots of different details of how it is. And on their website, and Conair is not the only manufacturer, but they are one. You can download the BIM, and I imagine this is a 2D detail. I haven't downloaded it to see, but I imagine that's what it is. You can get CAD files, either DWG, maybe 3D AutoCAD files, or a DXF file. So you can download those files should you need them in your job. So now, on to kind of giving you an introduction to these curtain walls. So open you a new project in Revit, so you can kind of follow along with what we're doing. I'll wait for you. Okay. And we're going to draw 3 different curtain walls. And there's 3 that come in the Revit catalog, okay, or library. And we'll start with curtain wall 1. And it doesn't matter what size, I'm going to draw it there, 40 feet, okay. Then I want to draw the exterior glazing type wall. And then I want to draw the storefront type wall. And now let's go to 3D view. Okay, so now a curtain wall is a wall family. And unlike other wall families in Revit, it does not have layers. Okay, at its core, at its base, it's a big piece of glass. Okay, so our curtain wall 1 is just that. It is one panel with no grids, no mullions, no border, nothing. It's just one big panel. Okay, we can add a grid to it. We can add mullions to it. We can, but this is at its most simplest. The exterior glazing one is a big panel divided into grids. So it is divided into individual panels. Okay, so there's one panel, there's one panel. Okay, and so it's divided into individual panels based on a grid system. Okay, the storefront family, it's however big you draw it, and then it has individual panels, it has the grid, but it has the mullions on the grids. Okay, if you look at the properties over here, and all of them would be very similar, the only thing you can change here is the justification, meaning the beginning, center, or end justification, and then the angle of the grid. And by angle of the grid, I mean, we can make it, kind of funky like that, see? I guess there's a reason for it. You can do it. All right. We're going to go into how to create and edit these things, okay? But at its basis, everything you pick which model you want to start with. If you were to do a lot of storefront or curtain wall type work, you would pick whichever family you want, which most likely would be the storefront type family, and you would duplicate it and create your rules that you use most often so that it's a kind of a default wall type. Okay, so let's look at curtain wall 1, and let's go into edit type. First of all, up here on the modify button, I want you to hit the select pull down and make sure that you have select pinned elements and select elements by face turned on. That will make it easier in dealing with curtain walls. Okay. So let's select the curtain wall 1 and go edit type. Now the type information is, the parameters are the same in all 3 different types of walls, but it's what you can do with it. And if you look at this one, pretty much everything is set to none. Okay, because the rules are nothing. It's just one big piece of glass. Okay, so if I look at my next wall, the exterior glazing, now I have some data on my grid, but there's no mullions. The construction is not defined because there's no mullions. So the grid, the choices are either none, no grid, a fixed distance of however far apart we want the grid to be, a fixed number of grids, or a maximum spacing or a minimum spacing. And so you could set those, and then you could change the distance or the number however you feel like. So our vertical grid is like at 6 feet. So if we're less than 6 feet, it just like drags one out because we're still set at beginning, if you remember. So if I were to say fixed number, it may not like this change. It didn't like it because everything's still pinned right now. So let me just cancel, go back to distance. Not a none. You can make those changes anyway. Okay. So if I look at the storefront wall, here I have a curtain panel type that's in there, the join condition for the grids, the grid layouts, and then my mullion types. Okay, so let me move my view over so you can see what we're talking about. Okay, so join condition. That's how the mullions are joined at their intersections. We can set this up here based on rules. And so right now it said that vertical grid is continuous. That means this grid is continuous from top to bottom. And if you look, you can see it actually intersects the border mullions. Okay? The horizontal mullions are short pieces that go between those. Our options here, you have 4 different conditions: vertical continuous, horizontal continuous, border, and whichever continuous. So if I were to change this to border, let's go horizontal continuous. Now you notice the change, and I'll cancel this and zoom in. My border is continuous, but the horizontal mullion starts at the edge of the border and then goes across. Okay. So if I were to change that back to border and vertical, now you can see that the horizontal pieces are the short ones and the vertical goes all the way up to the border types up there. Okay, so that's join condition. The grid layout, that's we can change it. I don't know, let's go a fixed distance of, we'll say 3 feet. And you can see it took a while, but it made that change there. Okay. The same way for, we can make the change on the horizontal grids too. This section here, the mullions, I don't know, somehow that one got changed. I guess because I did it in a previous attempt at this video that didn't work. This specifies the size of the mullions. And when we say interior, that's all of the ones inside the storefront. The border, what's known as border 1 and 2, those are the ones that go around the perimeter. So for vertical mullions and interior mullions, you only have 4 options right now. So circular, a 1 inch, 1.5, and 2.5. Okay. Border 1 is, the vertical border 1 will be at the starting point. And so it's this one here, because I drew this wall from left to right. So where I start, that's border 1. And somehow it got changed to 1.5 in there. So let me change that back. Boom. Okay, now on these border mullions, we have lots of other options. We've got the corner mullion option. So there's L's and quads and things like that. Since I'm in here and you can see it, let's change that one to an L corner. Oh, I had to another curtain wall join there. Canceled, sorry. I didn't even think about that. Anyway, they have different shapes, and you can see those in those handout brochures that were there for the corners. Okay. And so those options are in all of those wall types. So now, to select these things, if you hover your mouse over it, this right here selects the entire wall. Okay, and you've got a couple of handles. This one will change the height of the wall. You got a handle here that can change the length of the wall. Here you can click to configure the grid layout, and that just changes your grids. And so since I've changed that, let's change that to center and apply it. And notice that it made the panels on both ends the same size. Okay, so see, it changed my arrowhead here to the center. And if I were to do that for my horizontal grids, now it gives me two big ones in the middle and a small one top and bottom. Okay, so that's editing the grid condition. Now, if I wanted to select, I can hover over individual mullions and select them. Okay, I can hover over individual panels, and you may have to press the tab key. So that got me an individual panel. Okay, if I hover over a mullion and tab key, I can get the grid line. And that dash line and then the tip that pops up, that tells me that that's a grid line. And I can do the same on the horizontal. Sometimes it'll snap to it automatically. Sometimes you have to tab. Okay, so now a couple of tricks here. If I select a vertical mullion and then I right click, I can go select mullions here, and I can get options to select multiple mullions. Okay, so I can select everything on this vertical grid. Okay, so that's select all my vertical grid mullions. If I just want that particular vertical grid, I would say on grid line. And see, that selected all of those. It works the same way with horizontal. If I select a panel, I get the same kind of options, select panel. So I can select all of them along a horizontal grid. Okay. Now I said we could change panel materials. Come on here. So what we do is we have to unpin it. And you could select all of them across the bottom, unpin it. Now you can change your system panel to something else. And we're going to go with solid. Okay. And so now instead of a piece of glass, it's a piece of solid material. Okay, I'm going to pause this video and then go to start a new one.